It all started one quiet Sunday morning, the kind of morning where everything feels too still, like the world's holding its breath. I was sitting in the kitchen, half awake, sipping cereal milk and scrolling on my phone when my mom walked in. She looked tired, distracted, like she hadn't slept. Without even saying good morning, she dropped a dusty box on the table and said, "We need to do this today. And we need to film it." Now, my mom's not the type to say weird stuff. She's always been kind of serious, the do your chores, finish your homework, no nonsense type. But that morning, something was different. Her eyes didn't look like hers. She wasn't angry, but she wasn't calm either. Just off. I remember the way her voice sounded, low and urgent, like she was being watched. The box had old photos, candles, and this little statue of a horse. It wasn't like a toy, it was detailed, almost too detailed. When I picked it up, it felt cold, like it had just come out of a freezer. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe she was planning some kind of creepy art project or family tradition she'd never told me about. But then she said, "We have to do it in the horse stall. And we have to film everything." That's when my stomach dropped. We have a horse, a big brown mare named Lucy. We've had her for years, and she's the calmest animal you'll ever meet. But lately, she'd been acting jumpy. She wouldn't let anyone near her at night, and she'd started pacing in circles in her stall like she was trying to wear the floor down. My mom told me it was just age, but I wasn't so sure. I followed her outside, a phone in hand, already recording like she asked. The sky was gray, the kind that makes the trees look darker and the air feel heavier. When we reached the barn, Lucy was standing completely still, facing the far corner of her stall. She didn't even move when we walked in. That was the first time I felt real fear, like bone-deep, gut-tightening fear. Mom told me to put the horse statue in the center of the stall, right in front of Lucy. I hesitated, but she grabbed my wrist and made me do it. I placed it down and stepped back. The second it touched the ground, Lucy let out this horrible noise, like a scream, not a neigh, and kicked the back wall so hard I thought she'd break through it. The whole stall shook. Dust rained down from the rafters. Then, the lights in the barn flickered even though they weren't on. My phone camera glitched. And Mom? She just stood there, staring at Lucy like she was waiting for something. That's when I realized, this wasn't some ritual or family tradition. It was something darker. Something my mom wasn't telling me. And whatever it was, it had already started. And the worst part? I think it was her idea. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there, clutching my phone like it could protect me, heart pounding in my chest. My mom knelt down beside the weird little statue and started whispering something. I couldn't hear all the words, but it didn't sound like English. It was this low, raspy chant, and the way she rocked back and forth while saying it, it wasn't like her at all. Lucy backed into the corner, eyes wide and white, breathing hard like she'd just run a race. I'd never seen her like that, not even during thunderstorms. My hands were shaking so bad the video on my phone kept blurring. I knew I should stop recording, but it felt like if I did, something worse would happen. I kept thinking, why now? Why film it? Why drag me into it? That's when I remembered something. Last week, I'd found Mom in the barn late at night. I'd gone out to grab a tool and saw her just standing in Lucy's stall, staring at the wall. I called her name and she didn't even turn around. When she finally did, her eyes looked glassy, like she wasn't really there. I asked her about it the next day, but she acted like it didn't happen. Brushed it off. Now I wasn't so sure she had forgotten. After a few minutes, she stopped chanting and stood up slowly, brushing hay off her knees. She looked at me and said, "Do you feel it yet?" Feel what? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't speak. The air around us had changed. It felt thick, heavy, like the barn wasn't part of the world anymore. Like it was sealed off. Even the sounds outside, the birds, the wind, they were just gone. Then I noticed something strange on the wall behind Lucy. A faint shape, like a shadow, but not cast by anything. It looked almost like a figure, tall and thin, pressed into the wood like a burn mark. I pointed at it, and Mom nodded like she expected it. Like that's what she came here for. I finally spoke. "What is that?" She looked at me, her voice calm and cold. "It's almost ready. Just keep recording." The more I looked at the figure, the more it seemed to shift, like it wasn't staying still. Like it was waiting. I stepped closer without meaning to, drawn in by something I couldn't explain. My head started to hurt, this sharp, pulsing pain behind my eyes, and I swear I could hear a voice, real soft, almost like a whisper. But it wasn't saying anything I could understand. I turned the camera toward the figure, and for a split second, the screen turned completely black. Not fuzzy or glitched, just pure black. Then it came back. But the statue wasn't where I'd left it. It had moved, just a few inches, like something had nudged it. I looked back at my mom, and she was smiling now. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was relieved. Then she said something I still don't understand. She said, "He saw you." And that's when I knew, whatever we started in that barn wasn't finished. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. After we left the barn, Mom went straight to her room without saying another word. No explanation, no warning, nothing. I kept watching the video I recorded on my phone, trying to find something, anything, that would explain what I saw. But no matter how many times I replayed it, that moment where the screen went black always happened in the same spot. Like something was blocking the camera, but only for a second. And the statue, it definitely moved. I didn't imagine that. The next morning, things got weirder. Lucy wouldn't eat. She just stood in her stall, staring at that same corner where the shadow had appeared. And then there was the scratch. Not on her, but on me. A thin, red line across my forearm that hadn't been there when I went to bed. It burned, like a fresh cut, but it didn't bleed. I asked Mom about it, but she barely looked at me. She just said, "He's getting closer," like that explained everything. I tried talking to my friend Tyler later that day. He's the only person who's been to our place enough to know when something's off. I didn't tell him everything, just hinted that something strange was happening at the barn. He laughed at first, said maybe I was just tired or bored. But when I showed him a freeze frame of the figure on the wall, he stopped smiling. His voice dropped when he asked, "Did your mom ever talk about the horse before Lucy?" That threw me off. I didn't even know we had another horse. Tyler told me that years ago, before I was born, there was another mare. Her name was Bella. He remembered because his uncle used to help out around our barn. He said Bella disappeared one night, and nobody ever found out why. All anyone knew was, Mom wouldn't let anyone in the barn for weeks after that. Said it was unsafe. That night, I snuck into her room while she was asleep. I found a notebook under her bed. Pages filled with hand-drawn symbols, names I couldn't pronounce, and dates going back years. There were old Polaroids too. One of them showed her younger, maybe 20, holding that same horse statue. But what scared me most was a photo of the barn from long ago, before the repairs, before Lucy, and in the photo, the same shadowy figure was there, burned into the wood in the exact same spot. I took the notebook and stuffed it in my backpack. I don't know what Mom's doing or why she dragged me into it, but something's happening with that horse, that statue, and that figure in the wall. And whatever it is, it's been building for a long time. I didn't go to school the next day. I couldn't. Not with everything circling in my head, the shadow in the barn, the statue, the notebook full of strange writing, and that picture. That picture wouldn't leave me alone. The figure in the wall had been there before Lucy. Before me. I kept asking myself what my mom had gotten into, and why she never told me anything until now. She was quiet that morning. Made coffee, stared out the window, didn't even look at me once. It was like she was waiting for something. Every so often, she'd glance at the clock, her fingers tapping the counter, lips moving like she was counting down. Around noon, she said it was time to go back to the barn. Her voice was steady, but flat, like she was reciting lines from a script. I didn't want to go. Every part of me screamed not to. But I followed her anyway. The air was colder than it should have been for that time of day. The sky was cloudy, but not stormy, just gray, like it was holding something back. When we got to the barn, I noticed fresh symbols painted on the doors in red. I didn't ask what it was. I didn't want to know. Lucy stood in her stall, stiff and silent, still facing that same corner. The figure on the wall was darker now, like it had deepened somehow, more carved than shadow. Mom handed me the statue again. Put it back, she said. Right where it was. Same spot. I hesitated, holding it in both hands. It felt heavier now, almost like it was resisting me. But I did what she said. I placed it on the straw-covered floor in front of the wall. As soon as it touched down, the barn lights, though they were off, flashed bright white for just a second. My ears popped. Then Lucy let out another horrible sound, deeper than before, more desperate. I backed away fast, but Mom didn't move. She was whispering again, faster this time. Chanting. That strange language filled the air, crawling along the walls. My phone, which I had propped up to record, started glitching again, lines across the screen, flashes of static, and a flicker of something in the frame that wasn't there in real life. Something tall. Something moving. That's when the barn doors slammed shut behind us. I turned and ran to them, pulling hard, but they wouldn't budge. They were locked from the outside, but no one else was here. I turned back and saw the figure in the wall start to shift. Not just flicker, move. It stretched upward, like it was climbing out of the wood. Mom fell to her knees, tears in her eyes now, still chanting. She looked at me and said, I tried to stop it before. I failed. The walls groaned. The temperature dropped. My breath came out in clouds. The statue began to hum, quiet at first, then louder, vibrating with this deep, low sound that rattled in my chest. Then the figure stepped out of the wall. And it looked straight at me. It didn't have a face, not really. Just a shape where a face should have been. Like smoke trapped inside skin, shifting and flickering under the surface. It stood tall and still, the air around it vibrating like a low, humming engine. I couldn't move. My feet were frozen, like the ground had latched onto me. My mom was still on her knees, shaking now, her hands pressed flat against the dirt like she was holding something down. Then the thing spoke. But it didn't open its mouth. The voice filled the entire barn, pressing against my ears, against my bones. It said my name. Just that, my name, but in a voice that sounded like mine and my mom's and 100 other voices all layered together. That's when I realized it wasn't here for her. It was here for me. I stumbled back, trying to make it to the stall gate, but the shadows on the wall moved again, faster this time. They weren't just shapes anymore. They were hands. Dozens of them. Reaching out of the wood, out of the corners, from the beams above. And then my mom screamed. Not a normal scream, something raw and cracked and full of regret. She looked at me and yelled, "You weren't supposed to be born." Everything stopped. The figure froze. Even Lucy went silent. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at her, waiting, hoping she'd say it was a mistake, a lie, but she didn't. She just looked away. I tried to seal it years ago, she said, voice trembling. With the first one. Bella. But it wasn't enough. It needed blood. And it waited for you. It felt like the ground dropped under me. I thought I was part of something with her. But now I realized, I was the thing. The key. The offering. Whatever she started back then, she never stopped it. She just passed it down. The figure stepped closer, and every light in the barn exploded at once, glass raining down. The video on my phone cut out completely. The statue cracked, a long line splitting it right down the center. And just before everything went black, I saw it reach toward me, not with hands, but with something worse. It reached with memories. Memories I never had. Of voices in the walls. Of hooves pounding in the dark. Of something whispering to me before I was even born. Everything went silent, like someone had sucked the sound out of the air. The thing, the shadow, whatever it was, hovered in front of me, its shape flickering like a candle about to go out. But instead of fear, I suddenly felt something else. Familiarity. Like I'd seen it before, in dreams I couldn't remember or in flashes behind my eyes when I closed them. And then it spoke again, not aloud, but inside my head. The voice was softer this time. It didn't say my name, it said come back. The memories hit me like a wave. But they weren't mine. They were my mom's. I saw her as a teenager, holding the statue for the first time. I saw Bella thrashing in the barn, and something reaching through the wood. I saw her fall to her knees, crying, begging for the thing to leave her alone. And I saw the moment she realized that the only way to stop it was to pass it on. That's what she did. She passed it to me. But here's the thing, the figure didn't just feed on blood or fear. It fed on intent. On sacrifice. And as I stood there, surrounded by the cracking beams of our old barn and the smell of burning dust, I finally understood something. She never wanted to save me. She only wanted to save herself. The statue on the ground was humming again, louder now, the crack in its center glowing faintly. I looked at my mom, and something in me broke. You lied to me, I said, my voice shaking. You made me do this. She reached for me, maybe to explain, maybe to stop me, but I picked up the statue and turned to the figure. You want a sacrifice? I said, my voice louder than I expected. Take the one who started it. The shadow twisted, turning toward her. She gasped and stepped back, but it was too late. The lights flared. The barn trembled. The shadows swarmed her, wrapping around her like smoke. She screamed once, just once, and then was gone. The figure looked at me again, still flickering, and for a moment I thought it would take me too. But then it bowed its head, almost like it understood, and stepped back into the wall. The hum stopped. The barn stilled. Lucy let out a soft breath and lowered her head. I dropped the statue. It shattered completely this time, crumbling into dust. I stood there for a long time, heart pounding, until the barn doors slowly creaked open on their own. It felt over. But here's the twist, when I got back inside the house, the video I'd recorded had changed. The ending was different. It didn't show the shadow taking my mom. It showed me. Standing in the corner. Smiling. Like I'd always been there. I didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself standing in that corner, just like in the video. Same blank stare. Same quiet, unnatural smile. It didn't make sense. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't standing there. But there I was, frozen in the footage like I had been part of that moment all along. I deleted the video. Then I deleted it again when it came back the next morning. That's when I knew, some part of whatever happened in that barn hadn't left with my mom. It stayed. Not just in the wood or the shadows, but in me. I tried to go back to normal. I really did. I cleaned the barn. Gave Lucy extra food, brushed her down every morning. She slowly returned to herself, like a weight had been lifted. Her stall is quiet now. She doesn't stare at the corner anymore. The figure on the wall is gone. Just wood and dust. I found the notebook again, though. It was sitting on my bed like someone had placed it there carefully. I burned it in the fireplace. Watched the pages curl and blacken until there was nothing left but ash. Still, I swear I hear the whispers sometimes, right as I'm drifting off. People ask about my mom. I tell them she left. That we had a fight and she took off. That's easier than the truth. No one would believe me anyway. I barely believe it myself. I found more pictures tucked inside the barn's rafters. Ones I hadn't seen before. Older than the others. Some were of my grandfather, someone I never met. In one, he's holding the same horse statue. In another, he's standing in front of the barn, and behind him, the same figure. Faint. Hidden in the shadows. That's when it hit me. This thing, whatever it is, didn't start with my mom. It's older. Passed down through generations, like a sickness no one talks about. Each one trying to survive it in their own way. She tried to outrun it. I tried to understand it. But maybe it's not about running or fighting. Maybe it's just about knowing. About facing the thing hiding in the dark instead of pretending it's not there. The barn's quiet now. The land feels lighter. But I still lock the doors at night. I still check the walls. Just in case. And every once in a while, when the wind hits just right, I swear I hear hooves. Not running, just waiting. Whatever this thing is, it may be gone for now. But I know it'll come back. Because that's what curses do.